Welcome to the world of MMA Lockup, the home for combat sports. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. And now the host of MMA Lockup, Chris Matthews.
Welcome back to another week of MMA Lockup. I'm Chris Matthews. Make sure you check out that website. It's MMALockup.com or also Facebook and Twitter at MMA Lockup. Got a lot to talk about. Have a loaded show. We're going to have John Morgan of MMA Junkie on the show. Ringside doctor for the UFC and Strikeforce out of California, Dr. Gary Furness. We've also got Rory McDonald. He's trained such fighters as Forrest Griffin. Going to have him on, going to mix it up. But let's start the show off with the owner of Impact Fight Management and the manager of Michael Mayday McDonald, among others. I'm, of course, speaking about Tom Call. Tom, what things are happening right now with Impact Fight Management? A lot of big things are going on.
Well, next up, kind of at the UFC level, we have David Mitchell. David Mitchell's fighting Simeon Thorson. David Mitchell was supposed to fight, it was actually supposed to be the very first fight, UFC in Macau, China, but his opponent was deemed too, unhealthy enough to participate in the match. And basically, something he had problems making weight. So David Mitchell, who took the fight on relatively short notice, ended up not fighting at all and went all the way to China for no fight. So he's actually bouncing back on the FX portion of the preliminary card when UFC is in Chicago against Simeon Thorson. So that's next up. That's very exciting. Then January 16th, obviously Michael fighting Mr. Barao in London for the UFC's interim bantamweight belt, and we're very excited, obviously, and Michael's very busy preparing. And then next up is Brian Caraway. Brian Caraway's fighting actually in Tokyo, so we're going international, definitely, with a lot of these fights. And that is on the Fuel 8 card. The main event of that one is Vanderlei Silva and Brian Stan. Brian Caraway's fighting at, I hope I don't butcher the name, Takeya Mizukaki, who is, kind of on a tear. So these are 2 guys, going to move up the ladder with a win.
Before we move to 2013, what are some things Tom Call learned in 2012 from the fight business? I think I learned as much as anything just appreciation for where the fight business has come. I've been doing this for some time and remember, guys fighting for no money and, that type of thing. And to be, see guys on network TV and that type of thing, I think I learned just kind of an appreciation overall for, where the sport is, where it's gone, and, what the potential future holds. Michael Mayday McDonald is one of the hottest names in MMA currently. How has life changed since he learned that he's getting that title shot?
I think that nothing's really changed. Michael is a hard worker, a student of the game, and that, is above fight, above even the fighting part of it. If Michael didn't fight, he would still be training and be a martial artist. So, kind of fighting is almost ancillary to that. So nothing changes too much. I mean, I guess the biggest thing that changes, honestly, is a lot more interview requests and interviews.
Tom, you've been with Mayday a good portion of his career. Are you at all surprised at how fast success has found this guy?
The amazing thing about your question is I used to be. I'm not really anymore because I've kind of known Michael now for a long time, and I've watched his career progress. And I used to be astonished when he was literally 16 years old knocking out grown men. But seeing him do it consistently, even as the level of talent increased, the bigger fights, the bigger levels, you know that he's just capable. And some guys just are gifted, and he's one of those guys, and he works really hard. And I'm not surprised, honestly. I used to be, but we've been together, and I've kind of watched his career long enough that I'm not anymore.
MMA is constantly changing. From a fight management standpoint, what are some of the things you've learned from this whirlwind of success that MMA has found in the last few years?
Well, the one thing that every manager's had to come up with some sort of, every management company has some sort of social media kind of management plan. And, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, that really didn't exist. You maybe had a website with a forum on the website, and you hoped you had kind of some fan interaction there. Now, with the instant interaction that Facebook and Twitter and these different mediums offer, it's part of the job. When a guy gets to a certain level, when he's, with our company, they have to have a presence, and we have to kind of be able to make sure they understand the importance of that, both, from a professional level and, it's almost an obligation. How many guys in the UFC that the fight on main cards don't have Twitter? Yeah, you actually think of running the Twitter. It might be his management company, a PR person or something, actually producing the content. It might be the guy himself. It might be a combination. But, it's across the board. I could be wrong, but I can't really think of anybody who doesn't. That would be, a topic on Twitter.
How tough is it today for athletes in comparison to the past when information is so accessible because of the social media?
Sure. That is obviously a huge risk, and there's different ways different people handle that, and a lot of it's track record, and at the end of the day, everybody's people. People make mistakes. Nobody, just because somebody's an athlete, doesn't make them perfect. They're not perfect as an athlete, and that's what they're best at. So nobody's going to be perfect in their personal life. So, it's a dangerous curve. I actually worry about that. For all young people, that they just don't understand that you're putting something kind of in writing forever, with some of the social media stuff. But I think there's a flip side to that can outweigh the bad, right? MMA was in a closet, tucked away. Nobody could find it for a long time. Now you can find it anywhere. These athletes have had an opportunity to kind of build their brands and who they are and their influence, within the marketplace, and have more financial opportunities through these networks. So I think with every kind of good comes some danger, probably.
Moving on to another title fight, were you at all surprised with the outcome of Cain Velasquez and Junior Dos Santos?
Not really. I take that back. I was very surprised it actually went 5 rounds. I wasn't surprised Cain won. Cain trains in the Bay Area. I've had the opportunity to see him fight, and he went to the same school as one of my other clients. And all the stories about Cain have always been, almost like a superhero. And the fact that a guy like Junior Dos Santos hit you on the chin and you went down, I don't know that makes you not a superhero anymore. So I think those are two big guys that are going to fight a bunch of times, because they may be the two best.
Mauricio Shogun, who lost a few weeks ago, what do you think's next for him? Is it a possible move down to middleweight, or does he stay at the light heavyweight division?
I guess what Shogun should do next?
Yes.
Or, a guy like Shogun, I think he should be given, the license to decide what he wants to do next at what weight class. The guy puts on amazing performances, win, lose, or draw. He's been a kind of pioneer of the entire game. Whatever weight he wants to fight, I'm sure he'd be a tough fight for anybody.
Do you think the UFC would find enough value in setting up a bout between Spider and Shogun?
Well, it'd be a great fight in Brazil. There's no doubt about that. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend I can tell them which fights sell the best, because they seem to have a pretty good handle on it. And I don't really think you can lose either way. I think all those are great fights. It's nice to have an A or a B that would be outstanding fights. As a fan, I can't say I'd be disappointed to see either one of those contests.
Who do you see taking the fight between Jose Aldo and Frankie Edgar?
That's a really great fight to pick. Frankie's tough and been in a lot of big fights. He's not a guy that you pick against. I know personally a couple of the guys that Frankie's won fights against, and they are incredibly tough and talented fighters. So I tend to lean Frankie Edgar just on the level of competition he's competed at for the last several years at that UFC 155 division has been, it's hard to duplicate. To me, if I can jump sports, it has a lot, not that it'll be that kind of mismatch, but it kind of has a lot to do, to me, with kind of an Alabama versus a Notre Dame, where he's just been in a tough fight for a lot of years in a row at the very, very highest level.
What can people expect when one of your fighters, that being David Mitchell, fights on January 26th?
Well, I can say that David Mitchell has been fortunate to fight in the UFC twice, and not very healthy as compared to he is going into this fight. So I'm really excited for David Mitchell to have the opportunity to compete at his physical peak. I think that he's got a very, very good chance to be really successful, and this is kind of the first step, competing, at this healthy level.
Tell us a little bit about how he's adjusted to not being able to fight, then being scheduled to fight another fighter.
Well, we took a little time to kind of let him kind of wind down from an abbreviated camp, because he actually took that fight on relatively short notice. However, David Mitchell never really gets out of shape. He's kind of the guy that, even when he's lost a fight, he's back in the gym the next day. He's really kind of an outdoor guy, ride his bike 15 miles, do this kind of thing, running up hills and bike races, and he's just a really kind of active lifestyle guy, so he's always kind of trying to stay in shape. So we, gave him a little peek from sparring, and he kind of really jumped back in, but he jumped in really healthy and in really good shape, and so he's really come on strong, as camp as starting to peak and get really intense, and really positive, everything we've seen from him so far.
That was Tom Call, owner of Impact Fight Management. Always a pleasure having him on. I look forward to having him on again. Folks, make sure you check out that website, MMALockup.com, or also Facebook and Twitter at MMALockup. More to come when we get back.
Check out our analysis at MMA Lockup.